And naturally, I'm a Tottenham man, obviously. I can reflect back to being a player with and manager of some of the finest players that have ever been in the game.
The place is fantastic, the tradition of this club.
To be the manager of 3 cup-winning teams here, I'm so lucky, it's untrue.
Hotspur America podcast, airing every week during the English Premier League season.
What a glory night at White Hart Lane.
This great and historic football club.
Joyful night down the Tottenham High Road.
Hotspur America, the original US-based podcast dedicated solely to Tottenham Hotspur Football Club.
Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know. Oh, I say! Schoolboy's own stuff.
I hate Arsenal, just hate them.
Oh, what a goal! Unbelievable!
Wow, this is incredible.
We're the Yids in America.
This is on the tap in.
What a fantastic run. He scored.
Alex Turner, Eric Dyer.
This is your Hotspur America.
Season 5, Episode 5 of the Hotspur America podcast. You can find the podcast on multiple social media platforms at Hotspur America on Twitter, Hotspur America Pod on Instagram. Look for us on Facebook, Spreaker, iTunes on your Apple devices as well. Sam is with me. Tim is with me, and as is Simon, the original 4 horsemen, trying to bring some enlightenment and Sammy, what would you call it? Just some kind of calm? I mean, the Twitterverse has exploded.
Well, it was a Met result, and I mean, I'm not excusing that result. We should have won. I like to think that we're a better team. Watford's very good. I mean, Watford's a good team. I mean, they're 4 for a reason. They're spirited. I think they're organized. And maybe I missed it the first time around. I watched it again today. But even though we had the majority of the possession, they played well. They played very physical. They made key tackles. I think we made it easier for them by our formation. I'm sure we're going to talk on that. But look, I mean, everybody wanted to be undefeated with 4 matches. Everybody wanted to see us top of the table. And in typical fashion, we didn't get it done. And I understand the emotion, but I think there's a number of reasons why we can just relax. And we'll talk about it today. You guys, what did you think?
Well, I mean, let me address it this way, Chairs. We waxed lyrical last week talking about Kane going into Manchester United, making an announcement that these are the type of games that you're supposed to win or that you have to win if you're going to contend for a title. If you go to Old Trafford and even pick up a point, maybe not even win, isn't it matches like Watford that you really need to be winning if you're going to contend for a championship?
Well, yeah, no disrespect to Watford. And granted, we talked last week about how well they started and that they definitely put out their stall yesterday and showed their intent that it wasn't going to be easy for us. And it's a different team. It's a different dynamic. It's a new coach that's come in. They're not going to be the pushover they were last season. It's hard to discount entirely the thought process, hey, we just beat United, so we're going to do Watford. I'd like to think that Poch is not naive to let anyone in the camp think that. But there certainly seemed to be a little of that when we went a goal up. And just what frustrated me the most about that game was the lack of significant effort for all that possession and that passing and the crossing to make some solid chances. 2 efforts on goal, long range from Eriksen that were not very good. It's not a good outcome for the day. And, I know we'll talk about the defending. So, did we take them for granted? Did we take them lightly? I think there's an air of that. And I don't think we expected to get the 1-2 punch that happened midway through the second half. And we scrambled. And when we have to scramble, we're out of ideas.
Look,
we just don't know what to do.
I know we're going to talk about a number of players that were subpar, and that definitely needs to be a focus for us today. But, interesting stat. When we went 1-0 up, it's the first time they've been behind all season long.
Right.
And so just for a little context, to Chair's point, we have to win those matches. I think they're going to be a tough fixture for a lot of people. And I did say, but anytime that you have a big victory away and you play a team that, historically speaking has been pretty weak, those can end up being banana peels, and this kind of was that.
Well, and I think we gifted them because of the schedule with us playing more away games, and I think it was slated for us to play them at home, so it was reversed. I think it puts them 3 in a row, and if I'm not mistaken, are they playing United next?
Yeah, they are at home. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, right, because they played last week at home, and obviously with us being the reverse fixture, so that gives them a nice little opportunity to go 5-0. I know United managed to rebound from Monday night yesterday against Burnley, but this isn't the same Burnley team from last season. So I think Watford could turn over Mourinho and his merry men next week or in 2 weeks.
Timmy, Dylan at Dylan THFC asks, why not stick with the same 11 from the United match? There were a couple of changes. Obviously, the Hugo injury making its presence felt, and Spurs fans have their opinion about that as well. But I want to get your thoughts on the lineup and where you thought maybe tactically, or because Watford is so physical, where that was a detriment.
I mean, going into this, we talked about it last week. I thought a back three was what we should have went with in this match, given that Watford plays two strikers up top in Gray and Deeney, given that they got that attack going down from their left side, our right side with Holebas and Pereira. I thought we needed to bring in the extra center back to give some cover on that right side, but also to help deal with the two strikers. So I don't fault, Pochettino for making that change at all. I think that this comes down 100% on the players, not on his tactic, because once that whistle blows, that first half was like a fucking friendly. Like, nobody looked like they were trying at all, aside from maybe Lucas at times. But everyone just looked like they waltzed into this thinking, we just beat United 3-0. This is going to be a cakewalk. It's Watford. We got this. And it showed in the play out there on the pitch. So, I mean, why not stick with the same starting 11 from the United? Because we're playing a different team with a different style of play, a different formation they come out with. So yeah. I think that the lineup from the start of it, I don't fault it. Now, it completely unraveled during the game.
That should have worked, right, Tim? I mean, we talked about it before a few weeks ago. I mean, that's a formation that's going to work in teams that just don't. I mean, it's Eddie and Capoue in the midfield, right? I mean, I know they have Decore, but we should have been able to get away with it there.
Should have, but I mean, now we're Monday morning quarterbacking, and we can look back at Dembele's performance and say, is he able to play 2 games in a row within a 7-day period? Can he do that? Because we went from Monday to Sunday, so I guess within a 6-day period. And it doesn't look like he can do that.
He looked knackered. You always hear it's like, oh, we look leggy, we look tired. He looked knackered. I mean, all throughout that match.
Chairs, when I went back and I looked at this match, I watched it a second time. The entire front four was...
Oh, bless you, Kenny. How did you watch that a second time?
I know. Was woeful, except for Lucas. Kane, Eriksen, Dele, no effort. Bad passing, wide open people on the right, and you're trying to scroll to the left, or vice versa. Davis had a very off game. Rose was another one that you may have looked at and said, man, maybe he should have gotten a second start in a row, because he did play well against United, I thought, other than that one errant pass in the first half that they got away with. When you have so many players, Is it something that just says, look, we just beat United and you have a simple letdown? Is that what this is? Or is this maybe even some World Cup hangover and everybody's just freaking exhausted after the season they had last year? And then when you sit down and look at a season, all the matches that you have ahead of you yet, after going through training camp and the whole bit, what do you throw this down to, Chairs? I'm really interested.
Wow. That's a loaded question. I mean, I wish I had the answer. And could say, hey, why the hell did you not play better? Eriksen has not had a good start to the season, period. A couple of decent passes here and there. I think it was one in the first half that was very incisive that got to Lucas. It was just maybe a half a yard in front of him. Dele, his body language, I don't know if you called it, I think, again, first half. He was beckoning to Davis. I think there was something that upset him, and his body language was off. Kane was peripheral throughout the game. Didn't seem to be doing much off the ball. Certainly was not getting a lot of service. I know that was that one free kick that got pulled back when we tried to play it earlier. That could have happened. There was that one opportunity. I think it was him and Dele
Yeah, 2-on-1.
And his cross was intercepted. Normally that cross goes to where it needs to be. So
he just takes the shot.
Oh, it was him and Mora, wasn't it?
Well,
yeah.
Right.
No, it was Dele.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, it was Dele. Mora, yeah, he was good, but it was interesting because I watched it late last night with Spencer, and you're right, Mora was definitely the offensive highlight for us, but his first touch was just not as good as it had been, and the ball just tended to run away from him rather than him just being a little more deft on the ball. He could have had a couple of efforts, I think, in that game that would have been more than a half chance, but they just ran away from him. Trippier, I think his pass completion rate, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they were the highest of any player in the match, and I think we shouldn't ever overlook what he contributes to the game, even if he's quiet, but his crosses were there. It's just the end product wasn't there when the ball got into the box. But you think if you're only using the one holding midfielder when you're playing three at the back and the two wing backs, you expect that top four to deliver, and they didn't. So game plan failed. And you going back to that original question of sticking to the original lineup. Well, if it worked in an away game at a team like United, who were going to go for it after their poor results, why on earth would you not continue the same approach to a high-flying team like Watford? And I don't think Poch would have taken them for granted. He just mixed it up. Maybe he was thinking about the international break and players would get a rest. We know most of our starting 11 doesn't get a rest in the international break. It is not an international break for them. It's just more bloody games to play that they're not going to overcome in the fatigue factor. And I was thinking about that today. I think I saw an Instagram picture of Dele meeting up with Southgate. I'm like, wow, already right after that game, and there they are in camp preparing for the upcoming matches. Yeah. So those guys aren't going to get the break that they need.
Sam, I'm going to ask you two questions. The first one is, a lot of people have their opinions on the Hugo injury. So all things being equal, if the club said he had a thigh injury, you have to think he had a thigh injury. But do you think that it was a thigh injury, or was it just...
it was a thigh injury. Absolutely a thigh injury.
Fuck no.
Come on.
You conspiracy theorist.
This is so preposterous. You of all people to be a conspiracy theorist about this.
That is the biggest load of Donna.
So the French Football Federation is in on the conspiracy as well? Give me a break. Come on, Tim. You don't believe that.
Bullshit. Okay, the reason I think it's bullshit is every time someone gets injured like that, when it wasn't in the middle of a game for us to know, they tell us why. They say he picked up a knock in training. He had something that was bothering in the game. Nothing was said on Hugo's injury.
You're just mad you didn't find out about it. You're just mad you didn't find out about it.
I don't give a shit about that. They announce his injury different than they do every other injury.
Well, what do you mean? I mean, so
I'm skeptical. I think this is going back to the arrest and then making up.
Oh, come on. What would be the point of that? What's the point of that?
That's what I'm saying. What was the point of people calling for him to be benched in the first place? I didn't see a point to it.
But why would you do that? I mean, if you wanted to actually discipline him and you felt that it was an infraction that was worthy of him being penalized, worthy of him not being playing, he needed to be made an example, then why didn't they make an example? Why did they do something bullshit and make up an injury, and then also, oh, by the way, have France in on the game as well? I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's possible, but
I'm just skeptical from the way it was announced issue. Because it's different.
We really that rotten? We really that underhanded? And
well, I'll tell you why I'm siding with Tim on this. I'm siding with Tim on this for two reasons. First of all,
I know what I'm talking about.
Well, I don't think the club wants the black eye, right? So they're just going to simply say it happened, it's gone. We're not going to do anything about it. There's nothing to do about it. Big hugs at the end of the United match for Hugo, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
The performance on the field against Watford, when your captain is punished and it's internal and everybody knows why that's on the pitch, can that cause a letdown to your team? And I think maybe that's what we saw.
Conspiracy theory. I don't buy it for a minute, fellas.
Oh, cheers! Well done, cheers.
Well, no, and I thought about it. I thought about it from both sides. To do it after the fact is
Weird.
basically